Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. It is me, Dr. Shanna of Shanna Scott PR and Events, and welcome back to Event TV. We have today an amazing individual. I'm so excited that she is here. And without further ado, I am going to bring her on. Here we have her. Hello, hello, the small biz lady, Miss Melinda Emerson. Hi, how are you, Melinda?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. I'm so excited to be here with you. You snazzy. I like your opening and everything.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You gotta be a brand and demand, which we're gonna talk about that. Talk about that. So tell me, Miss Small Business Lady Melinda Emerson, what's going on in your world right now?
Oh man, lots of good stuff going on. My baby is graduating from high school, so it's like I can't wait and I'm like, "Oh no, but I can't wait." You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
he is moving on with his life. I'm going to be an empty nester. I'm excited about that. I'm also really excited because one of the things that we have done this year with my business is we have gone global. I participated in an international trade mission earlier this year, and what I found out was that education and training for women is something that the United States wants to export worldwide. And since I've been working
Wow.
everyone's small business expert, that has created so many amazing opportunities for us. So we are
Awesome.
in the process of launching a brand new platform called Small Biz Lady Academy. And we're
Nice.
going to make access to my coaching and materials very affordable and reasonable for people. And we're going to be offering that information in English and Spanish. And I'm so excited. Girl, I have been studying Spanish for the last 4 months. I got two tutors. They trying to get me ready. By the end of the year, I want to be able to teach in Spanish. So I'm really excited. Um,
Awesome.
and so that's that's the short news of what's going on with
That's
me.
that's amazing. So say first and foremost, say something in Spanish for us all.
¿Cómo está? How are you?
I don't know. Bien. Was that
You
Spanish?
should say muy bien. Very good.
Muy bien.
Muy
Okay, muy
bien. Very
bien.
good. Very good. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So, you're going global.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to hear about that. And you're the small business lady, biz lady. Tell me a little bit more. Well, before we do that, tell us all, just in case there are some people that are new to you, what is it that you do and who are you? We know you're going global. We know you killed in the US. Who are you? Who are you, amazing lady?
Well, I am Melinda Emerson, but my nickname is Small Biz Lady. And I am regarded as America's #1 small business expert. I have been an entrepreneur, believe it or not, for 25 years. And for the last 16 years, my mission has been to end small business failure. I specialize in training women entrepreneurs to start and grow successful small businesses. I'm the best selling author of this little book over my shoulder, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. It's actually been in print for 14 years. And we've sold over 100,000 copies worldwide, including in Spanish and Portuguese. So I'm really excited. That was actually part of the impetus for us to look at going global because we have such a following in foreign countries as well. So, uh, yeah, that is me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. And that's absolutely amazing in small business failure. But you come on Event TV, I've got to ask you this question. Why are you doing all of this? Why are you not some amazing dancer or amazing baker or a doctor? Why are you ending small business failure? Of all things,
Well,
you
you
wake
know
up
what?
in small business failure.
Well, yes, in a way, but Writing has always been my superpower since I was a little girl. I wanted to be a
Mm,
journalist as I was in eighth grade. And I went to college, I went to Virginia Tech undergrad, and I got my journalism degree. And I became a broadcast journalist out of college. I actually got a job with the NBC station in my hometown. Um,
whoa,
and I worked
nice.
for NBC in Pittsburgh for 1 year. And then I got a job at the NBC station in Philadelphia, which is where I have lived for the last 27 years. And what I will tell you is, I was very fortunate because I got my dream job when I was really young. I mean, I came to market for television in Philadelphia when I was 23 years old. And people work their whole careers to get to market, top market TV. And I got there my second job. But what I learned from that experience is that you better be careful what you wish for because you might get it. That's what
Okay.
I learned. So I got my dream job and I hated it. And I literally I hated murders, I hated fires, I hated that there were, black men were in handcuffs the first 5 stories every night. Like I was like, this is clinically
Oh,
depressing. Like this is draining my soul. And then on top of that, I worked with people that weren't nice. Like I worked with people who were so self-important and indulgent, complete narcissists. And then in that environment required complete assimilation. Like if you did not think like a 30 something white male, you were not going to survive it. And
wow.
I just
Okay.
realized that, my soul, like I felt like this. I had many talents and I could figure out another one to make a living. It did not have to be this. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So let's just take a step back in all of this. Straight out, fresh out of college, you got your dream job, and the land of milk and honey, and then you found out it wasn't, right?
Girl, yeah, I was making a whole bunch of money, and
Right,
all I did was go to work because they worked us to death. I mean, we worked 12, 14-hour days like it was nothing.
right,
And then eventually I went from the NBC station in Philadelphia to the ABC station, and they didn't have a union, so they didn't even pay us 12 hours. They paid you salary, and that was that. So, at least when I worked at the NBC station, they paid me for all the hours I worked. But it was a very miserable existence. It was a very toxic work environment. And and newsrooms aren't really run like how other businesses are with like HR rules and things like that. So people would
right.
throw dates at people would cuss people out. I mean, like it was just like a crazy place to work. And I was like, I said, Lord, if I stay here, I'm gonna start acting like these people in here.
Right, right.
I gotta leave.
So you ended up leaving the job, or
Left
what? I
the
mean, what was
I
the
left the
last
job, minutes before the job left me, I kinda left the job, um,
right?
but I also while I was working, my I worked every weekend, and so that was one of the other things that got on my nerves, was like for some reason, all the Black people could only work on even early mornings and weekends, which is the shifts that I always kinda ended up getting, and I was just like, um I want to do something different. So on my off days, which were Mondays and Tuesdays, I actually started freelancing for a video production company, a company like the one I wanted to start.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
actually how I learned the business, like how I learned. I mean, obviously, I knew how to tell great stories and write scripts like that, but I didn't know how to price a job. I didn't know how to negotiate with a client. I didn't know what contracts even were supposed to look like. And so I learned all of this stuff from the company that I worked for on my freelance days. And
Wow.
I did that for about a year before I left my job. And the other thing I did was I took out a home equity loan from my home. I bought a home at 25
Right,
and
because you had this dream job that could pay for it.
exactly, because I was getting killed in Texas because I had no children, no husband and stuff back then. And I paid off every bill I had. Like I paid off my car, I paid off my credit card bills, and I was like, I got myself down to like bare bones bills. And then my kid brother was coming out of college that year and he got a job in Philly too. So he actually ended up being my tenant and living in my back bedroom and paying half my mortgage. So that helped me too. So, being somebody that had savings being somebody
Mhm.
that was savvy with money and credit and paying down bills and stuff really set me up well to start my first business, which I did when I was 26 years old.
Wow. Okay. So you started your first business at 26
Mhm.
after you had enough of your dream job. That
Yeah,
dream that
because
was
my
not
dream job was a nightmare. So yes.
nightmare, right? Right. Dream job turned nightmare. And I can relate to that definitely. So still, that doesn't tell us yet why small business failure. What brought you from
Oh.
NBC to ABC to small biz lady?
Well, it was the experience I had running my own business.
Mm.
When I was in
What was your first
college,
business?
my first business was a video production company.
Video production.
And
Yeah,
later,
'cause her videos look really nice. And all the time. I'm like, oh my
that's
God.
why, because I'm a little anal about it. But so we started as a video production company. Later, we morphed into a web development and video production company. And then in 2007, I read a trade journal that said social media was going to be the next big thing in business. And so we decided to push all our chips in the middle and, become a social media marketing firm. Um, but the thing about that is that all of this was in the backdrop of me becoming pregnant with my son. My then husband and I became pregnant in 2005 with my son. And at 32 years old, I ended up on bed rest with a high risk pregnancy, which is something I never could have possibly imagined. I was 32 years old. I was a healthy person. But
Everybody's pregnancy is perfect, right? How we envision it.
no, it really wasn't. And on top of that, if you get in your time machine with me and go back, Wi-Fi wasn't in people's houses in 2005. Wi-Fi didn't get in
Right.
people's houses till 2007. And so for me, we still had dial-up and stuff. And so it was a thing where I was sent home and I was just at home.
Right.
So I had offices in downtown Philadelphia, 8 or 9 employees. My
Mm,
husband had quit his full-time job and had joined our business full-time. So like our whole source of income as a family was coming out of
right.
this business. And all of a sudden the number one rainmaker got sent home.
Mm.
So imagine if you're on a basketball team and LeBron gets hurt and LeBron has to sit out the rest of the season, right? That's what it was like. And so when I got sent home, I was terrified because they didn't know what was wrong with my son, but they thought there was something wrong with my son. They had me at the hospital 3 times a week getting testing done, and they were like, "And make sure you come back next week." Um, so that was a very terrifying and unnerving time in my life. And then we almost lost my business the same year I had my son. And
Oh, goodness.
when I was home on bed rest, I to this day still believe it was God working on my behalf, because
Mhm.
when that happened, I was like the worst workaholic you ever met. Like I was horrible. I would work 6, 7 days a week. I would leave church on Sunday and go to the office and work 3 or 4 hours before I went home. But that
Wow.
was bad. And
Were you on bed rest or after
this was
or during?
before. This was before.
Before.
Before I
Oh,
got
okay. You were working yourself.
I was working myself to death because I thought my secret sauce was we gonna outwork people. I mean, you could
Right.
call my office at 9 o'clock at night and people would answer the phone like it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Not only was I a workaholic, I demanded that of my whole team that worked for me.
Oh, wow. And
It was
so,
sick. It was a very, very sick culture that I created. And when I got sent home was the first time that I realized it. Like it was like I realized a couple of things when I got sent home. One, that I had set up a business where you had to come ask mama, right? I had all these people that would do anything I asked, but I had never really empowered anybody to do anything. So when I wasn't there, they weren't doing nothing. We were burning through our savings, paying people who weren't even checking my email. People were sending RFPs to me. They weren't even checking my email.
Because you
Yeah.
had to tell them that is like, oh, okay. I won't
Yeah.
even go down that rabbit hole, but I
Yeah.
know that feeling.
Yeah.
So,
And so, yeah. So for me, when I was home, it was the first time I had ever stopped long enough to think about my business. Every day I had gotten up on go, like every day, right? So it was the
right,
first time
and
I
with
was
good
like,
reason.
yeah,
With
it
good
was
reason,
with
because
reason.
they told us that if you work hard, that was the secret sauce,
That's what they
right?
told us. I bought the lie. It was a
We
lie. They
bought
told us.
it, we bought
I
it,
bought
but
the
that
lie.
wasn't it.
And so what ended up happening was I could have lost my life. I could have lost my life. I could have lost my son. When I was 30, I came down with diverticulitis, like an elderly person's disease, because I was like, fast food, soda drinking, never have a glass of water, never eat a salad person. And I
Guilt,
almost listen, my health, I had wrecked my health. I was working all the time. I mean, I might as well have been a chain smoker, the stuff I was doing to myself, and I've
right.
never touched a cigarette. My point is I was doing the same amount of damage to myself. I was operating on 4 hours of sleep for
Right,
years, and it was just toxic. Um,
right. And
and
luckily,
yeah,
you had a healthy, happy marriage, right?
no,
Oh,
no. When you're a workaholic, your work is your first love, not your sweetie,
oh,
not your sweetie. So, and then working together. I don't think my ex-husband was ever happy working with me, and so
well, you did say you were running a tight ship.
I was. I mean, I think I at one point was accused of being Captain Bligh back in the day.
Oh my gosh.
So I think for us, like it finished killing our relationship. Like, our relationship was
Oh,
shaky. And then after 3-4 years of working together, it was on life support and it could not be saved. But I
okay.
also think, I once I stopped. Like, once we had JoJo and, I got JoJo to his first year of life without permanently maiming him in any way. Um, I went back to some notes I had taken when I was pregnant. And they were basically all of the expensive lessons I had learned when I was in business. And then I wrote down some lessons that I knew other people had learned. And those lessons eventually became my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, this book right here. Um, but it was in the writing of that book that I realized that there was an opportunity. And so, after I had my son, after I realized that my marriage was on life support, I was I was miserable. I basically had one of those Mariah Carey meltdowns, like I was like, Lord, what is we gonna do?
Right.
It was the first time in my life I had ever felt that way because I always have had a plan B and C. Like I always had dude number one and dude number two. Because if dude number one
Listen. Oh
dude number two. Like if one of my hairdressers acting fool, know that I got another one I can call. Like I've always been
my,
that person. And
to
I
have a
myself
contingency plan. Yeah.
for anything, right? But
For everything sounds like it.
I got to the point where I had no idea what to do next.
You want to
And
do
it was
okay. 'Cause plus you
bad.
had the small baby.
And I had a brand new baby that wasn't sleeping. That joker didn't sleep till he was 7 months old. So
Oh,
he terrorized us. Um, so
trust me,
so
I have a 9-month-old grandbaby, and
oh yeah. So when these jokers don't want to sleep. Now, one
mhm,
thing I will say is that we did have him very early on in his room. And that to this day has been helpful because my son will go to bed right now. Like if I say, Jojo, time to go to bed, he'd be like, all right.
all
Or
right, good.
in his room, shut the door. Like we've never had that. You better go sleep, better go sleep, better go sleep. Like we've never had that because
Like
my
how
ex
we do.
forced me to evict my son very early. He said, there's only room for one man in this bed. That boy gotta go.
Ah,
So
right,
he
right,
held me down in the bed while my baby cried, which was terrible.
right.
But what I
Well,
will say is that at that time, everything was bad. I really didn't know what to do. And I was so low, I couldn't even pray.
mm,
I want you to appreciate that because I went to church every Sunday and
mm,
was so low that I could not pray. Like
say
that's how
that
distraught
again.
I was. And I remember I went to lunch with my pastor and I kind of told him what was going on and I was telling him about my business and I was telling him about my marriage and he was like, "Well, have you have you been praying about it?" And I looked at him sheepishly, shamed to say that I had not prayed about it. And he said to me, "Try that." He
Lord
was
Jesus,
like, "Try that." He said, "Do me a favor, try that."
got it.
He was like, "Prayer works. I want you to," he said, "I want you to pray." He said, "And then I want you to come back and give me the report." And I was like, "Okay." So I went home and literally that night fell on my knees and prayed. And I asked God to show me the way, show me the direction. And it took about maybe 2.5 months. And then I had the first vision and I didn't really kind of understand it. So he did it again, right? And I was getting clearer, but I still didn't understand. The third time, he woke me up in the middle of the night and made me go downstairs and cut on the TV. And I finally figured out what he was telling me to do. And that was to become America's number one small business expert. But at the time, I had $1.50 in the bank. I didn't feel super successful. But my God said, it's not about what you got today. It's where I can take you. It's where I
Right.
can show you. And so um and the first thing he pointed me back to was this book. He was like, "Yeah, remember them notes you took? Yeah, pick that back up." And so literally um I picked up those notes and I created like 6, 7 chapters. And the first book company I ever spoke to bought my book. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have a book proposal. How about I didn't even know what a book proposal was? And
Wow.
they bought this book. And
Wow.
and it was just a miracle that, because now what I know about all you got to have to get a book deal, because my book was published by a small publisher in Boston that was later bought by Simon and Schuster. So the second and third edition
Wait a minute.
of
Excuse
my
me.
book was published by Simon and Schuster.
Because
Yeah.
you're going really fast. And I just want to make sure everyone is catching these amazing nuggets of who you are. Small book publisher, now bought by who?
Simon and Schuster.
Simon and Schuster. Wow. Talk about alignment and a life of purpose, Melinda. So just to just to redact everything that you were saying, you were working, dream job, knocking it out the park, absolutely miserable. Build this amazing business brick by brick, baby in tow, hubby in tow, barely holding on to everything until it all fails.
Mhm.
During that entire journey, God has been giving you what your next steps were. And
Yeah,
you thought you had no idea what those steps were.
I didn't know. I didn't know until he like literally had to clobber me over the head with like it's funny because I've talked to other people who like been called to ministry and they've described very similar things like what
Right.
happened to me. Like he speaks to us different ways. Some people he speaks to us through visions and dreams, which is how he speaks to me. The other thing he does is he has people call me on the phone and tell me stuff
Right.
that he told them to call me and tell me, which is like really crazy. But I have 3 people that I know talk to God who call me and say, "Hey, he told
This
me, he gave me a word for you." And it's
mm,
funny because it happened again last summer, which is how I got to Small Biz Lady Academy. So it's funny because it had been 17 years since he talked to me.
Wow.
And he sent me a very clear message last summer, and that was that I was playing too small.
Mm.
And he told me that he wanted me to create a goal that was so big and so audacious that only he could deliver it. Because when he did, he wanted me to be able to know that he did it. He said, "No, no, I don't need something you could do." He said, "I need something that you need me to do." And so
God size.
that is what we're doing, and that's why we're going global. That's why we've created Small Biz Lady Academy. I'm going to Cambodia in August. Let me tell you something. When he do it for you, we do not serve a little God. We serve a big one with a big G. And so that's what people have to understand, that when you are a believer, there's nothing that is impossible for God to do for you. But you first have to believe he can do it, right? Because if you don't believe it, he'd be like, "Tell you what, I'm gonna keep my pockets in my hand because you don't believe what I'm saying, okay?"
Right.
But
And
when you
he,
give him
and
an
I think,
opportunity to show out, trust,
right,
trust he'll do it. Yeah.
right. And it sounds like with you, building your business, being very, very busy, working all those hours, he had been communicating. But it took those moments of, girl, let me sit you down. You are
Oh,
a powerhouse. You are my anointed one. This is what I want you to do, not the video business. And you have this amazing book that has been feeding so and supporting and consulting with so many different businesses across the globe.
mhm.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
And you managed to build multiple seven-figure business
Mhm.
since.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
how does
mean,
that make your dream job salary look right
oh,
now?
please, if you knew how many people that used to work for me have called me and asked me for a job, girl, please. You know,
Right? You're
but
amazing.
I'm blessed because even that job prepared me for what I do now. I mean,
Right.
we develop content all day, every day. What
Oh,
did
and
I
great.
do? What did I do at the television station? I developed content all day, every day,
Oh,
and had zero time to do it in. So now when I get, a month to do a video, it's like, please, that's nothing. I can do that.
right. Right.
So I don't regret anything because I learned so much. But the amazing thing for me though was when I walked away from the news business in 1999, I never thought I would have the opportunity to be a journalist again. I had no idea that I would write this book. I also had no idea the things this book would open, the doors that this book would open for me. And for example, so when we were getting ready for the book to come out, the market crashed in 2008, right when
Mhm.
I turned my book into my publisher. And
That's
my publisher
right.
bumped my book by 18 months. And so we were like, what in the world are we supposed to do for 18 months waiting for this book to come out? Well, social media was brand new. I mean, so in 2008, Twitter was only 1 year old. So that's what I need you guys to understand. So we, I talked to a woman who was a publicist who knew as much as anybody knew about social media at the time. And she said, "Oh my gosh, we have 18 months to build your author platform. That's amazing, right?" And so we we got on Twitter, and I remember saying to her, "What is Twitter?" Like I literally didn't know what it was. And
It's sweeter.
what is Twitter? And then she said, "Don't worry about it. We just need to get you an account so I can teach you how to use Twitter." And so I go to twitter.com and I put in my name, Melinda Emerson. And then I got this polite message back, "This name is already taken." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I've met 6 other Melindas older than me my whole life. Like my name is not common. But thanks to Facebook, I found out there are 7 other Melinda Emersons. I'm the only black one, however. And I own melindaemerson.com, and I'm the first 26 pages on Google. So they all know who I am.
Right.
Including the chick that got my name on Twitter because I've seen her send people to my other account. She said, "No, you mean Small Biz Lady. That's who you looking for. You're not looking for me." Um, and so for me, like even becoming the Small Biz Lady, I mean, it immediately separated me from all the other so-called wannabe, maybe so, small business coaches that are out here, and it just gave me a lane to drive in. And I was early to it, right? I was an influencer before it was a job description out here everybody was trying to be, but I was an influencer in the small business space. And very quickly, also because of my media background, I became a spokesperson for a lot of corporate brands. I mean, in the last 13, 14 years, I've worked with over 150 corporate brands. Many,
Such as,
many, oh gosh, who I haven't I worked with. I mean, so Visa,
name about
American
five, six
Express,
of them.
Verizon, FedEx, Amazon, Google, HP, Adobe. I mean, on and on and on and on. And largely was because I had this appeal. I had a great audience, a great following, and mostly because I convened my community live every week on the internet. And so there was nobody that was doing that. So I created Small Biz Chat. I was one of the first people to create a live chat on Twitter. And that has just been, that was something that really transitioned my business. Like I like to tell people all the time, I'm a walking, talking social media brand because of Twitter. But once we started on social media, I started my blog, and then Entrepreneur called me and said, "Hey, we've been reading your blog. We want to know if you want to write for us." They had read my blog for 1 year before they approached me. And I wrote for Entrepreneur for about 2.5 years. And then after I wrote for Entrepreneur, the New York Times called me and said, "Hey, we got this You're the Boss blog, and we're looking for somebody to blog about social media and small business." And so I wrote for the New York Times for 2.5 years. And let me tell you something. The first time I got a byline in the New York Times, I cried because when I left the news business, people acted like I was finished, like I was washed up, like you'll never be a journalist again, kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't even want to be a journalist again. How about that? But God knew better. But I also had a professor in college who was like, "Listen, one day you will be discovered because of something you write. It will never be for something you do in television." And he was furious that I even wanted to go into television. He was like, "You're a gifted writer. I don't understand why you want to go deal with these idiots in television." But I didn't listen to him, but I did have to track him down when I got my book deal and tell him.
Right.
So, yeah.
Nice. Nice. So with all of your accomplishments, this is why you wrote Become Your Own Boss, and that you are such on a mission to end small business failure. And it's pretty admirable, for you to be on this mission, for you to take what you have learned, to take your L's and put them into a book to prevent other small businesses from failing, because the stats sometimes are very, very overwhelming.
90% gone in 5 years. About 20%,
Whoa.
20% die by year two.
19%?
No, I said 90%.
90%.
Gone in 5 years. Yeah.
Gone in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not easy. It's not easy. Most
It's
fail.
not easy. All right. So if anyone wants to grab your book, or get in contact with you, how could they do that? If there are any entrepreneurs out there that are really wanting some sort of a roadmap, some insight, or to work with you, how could they do that?
Well, for one, my book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, is available anywhere books are sold. It's on Audible, it's an ebook, it's a paper book, so you can find it anywhere. But if you want to work with me or just get in touch with me, I am Small Biz Lady on most platforms. On LinkedIn, I am my government name, Melinda Emerson, not Small Biz Lady. But if you're interested in, joining my community or getting more information about my online courses, head over to Small Biz Lady University. And if you want to know more about the Academy, go to smallbizladyacademy.com.
Awesome. Well, Melinda, you were absolutely amazing today. And I know that we could go on for several more hours about your story and your mission and contribution to this world, especially the entrepreneurial space. But we just got to get people to connect with you to hear more, you know? So, with that being said, I do want, this is Event TV, okay? And I do want for people, if you have an upcoming event, can you tell everyone about it or anything else that?
I can tell everyone about it. So, Brand in Demand Live this year is going to be September 26th to the 28th in Atlanta, Georgia. So, we are moving it down south, folks. So, we're going to be the last weekend in September, September 26, 27, and 28. I want you to come and hang out with me in Atlanta, Georgia for Brand in Demand Live. So we are going to do a live event this fall.
Awesome. Awesome. And thank you so much, Melinda, for coming. You all make sure that you have your eyes out for all of her information. Look for her on social media, Small Biz Lady. And Melinda, keep saving small businesses.
Oh, Shauna, you are amazing. And I always enjoy working with you. You helped us kick off Brand in Demand Live, and we've become great friends as a result. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you as well. So thank you all.
So, do you have closing music?
I do. I'm fighting with it. I'm going to have to cut this all out.
Oh, okay.
I have a, hold on for a second. Let me pause it.